Hey everybody, so great to see you here today. My name is Kathy Taliau, and we're so glad you've joined us for today's professional development webinar on differentiating for success. Thank you to Dimitri, who's hosting today. And if you have any comments or questions, please do raise your hand and let us put it in the chat that you want to share. We really want this to be a discussion where you get your questions answered and you share your ideas. Our objectives today are to discuss the benefits of differentiated instruction. We will explore strategies for implementing differentiation in a higher education distance learning environment. I want to start off just by asking, how do you feel about differentiating instruction in your course? Just check in and see if you have any questions to get us started off today.
And again, we'll ask you to put, if you want to put something in the chat, to put it to all participants when you have that drop-down menu, or raise your hand and Dimitri will open your mic so that you can speak up.
For the purposes of our discussion today, and please feel free to continue sending in those comments and questions if you want to, but for the purpose of our discussion, we're going to define differentiation today as customizing instruction to facilitate individual success among a diverse group of students. Okay. Thank you. And success, we're going to define it as student achievement of course level objectives. Of course, success can be defined in a number of ways. If we stick to this, I think we'll have a better chance of actually finishing within an hour today.
Right.
Judy, I saw Lisa said that she was interested not just in differentiating, but also equity among the students. Certainly.
Absolutely.
Lisa, did you want to elaborate on that? Are you able to?
Well, So I'm really interested in hearing from different folks about how they go about meeting the needs of their students, which is what we're referring to here in the slide, through differentiation, but also maintaining that equity between students, right? And for customizing to facilitate individual success, what does that mean about equity between students or among students? And then, of course, that alignment to the course level, the module level objectives, right? I mean, that's because sometimes it can be, we can make the mistake and create something and then look back and like, oh gosh, that's not right. So I'm interested in hearing from folks about that, how they go about doing that.
Awesome. For today's metaphor, I thought we'd use exercise class. As a teacher, I frequently used that because it so applied to what I was trying to teach my students. The more work you put into it, the better training you get, the more fit you'll be. And it was directly correlated to the amount of work that my students would do, assuming that they had a fantastic instructor, which in their case they did, of course, because I was their teacher. But in a physical fitness class, there is this common goal. But we can't just assume that everybody is on the same level. There's definitely going to be a diversity of learners, which would make it valuable to differentiate the instruction. Before we get started, maybe we could talk about what are some of the elements, characteristics of learners that is going to impact their learning. Just talking about who our students are.
And I think Chantal has started us out with some of the elements about encouraging their feedback and giving them practical examples.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Yep. And when we're talking, Lisa was talking about equity before, not all students are not created equal. see if I can get my thing to work here. When we've got any group of people, you're going to have variety in terms of experience, the skill sets that they bring to the table, their motivation, why are they taking the course, what do they hope to get out of it. I didn't put age in there, I meant to. That certainly goes along with experience in an online course as well as face-to-face. People have responsibilities outside the class. People bring they come to us with different physical and mental abilities. There's different language sets. Some people speak English as their first language and some people do not. What influences do they have? Are they responsible for providing for a family? All of these things are going to impact their ability to learn within our course. And so equity is an interesting question. I can't really speak to it because I'm not sure what that really means in terms of the word that comes to mind is fair. So I'm not really sure how we do that, but it's really important to talk about it. In a traditional class like this instructor has, this instructor's using a traditional style of teaching. He's the sage on the stage. The students are trying to keep up with him the best that they can, but there's many factors involved here. Time is limited. Everyone's listening to the same music. They're all following the same routine. But what about students who are highly athletic, or maybe students who have had recent surgery, or maybe they don't speak English? How is this going to impact their success or their satisfaction with this model? And we've been to exercise class. The instructor can offer modified levels of challenge, but the idea is generally, if you can't keep up, you need a different class. Which, okay, we can offer different levels of classes, but if we're talking about college courses, dropping a class when you find out it's too hard or you don't have the background skills for it, that's very disruptive both for the student and the instructor, and it's expensive. That kind of thing, you make that mistake too many times and you might want to drop out of school, So in my opinion, it would be valuable to see where our students are and how can we help them succeed in the course that they actually are enrolled in. Here we have a picture of some Navy sailors, and Dr. Judy, this was not influenced by my husband, but he was very happy to see that I included.
And is he in this picture?
No, he's not, but he told me that he would be the one doing the instructor role because he was Master Chief. So those of you who are participating, I was married in January to retired Master Chief Taliau. So we're very, very proud of him. This is a picture of Navy guys doing their circuit training. And in this model, the instructor's role is not sage on the stage, but rather guide on the side. Everyone in the room has the same overall goal. They all have the same content, but their specific tasks may vary depending on their skills or their current abilities. I used this model when I taught English in a face-to-face setting. I had students had small groups, and they rotated from 20 minutes from working independently on the computer, where they had their specific work that they were doing. It was a software program that gave them differentiated instruction. They had independent or group work that they would do with each other for 20 minutes, and then they would have 20 minutes of working with their instructor, and it got terrific results. We used the same content. Some people went slower. Some people needed to focus on a particular aspect of the learning. Some people went faster. And it definitely showed in our numbers. I'm not somebody who has tremendous academic background. Lori Rebar brought fantastic academic resources to the table this morning, so we're going to share those with you. I'm not sure how much research there is on this in terms of success, but I can tell you from a practical setting, it does work in my experience. Challenges of differentiated instruction. And when I was putting this together, that was the thing that came to my mind the most. What are going to be the yeah buts? It does take more time to plan. Absolutely. And if I'm planning one lesson, it takes longer to plan 3 different or a variety of lessons. It may take more time to implement. Not necessarily, though. If you've got this system rolling, or if you've got some ideas, or sometimes different strategies may give you actually less time to implement, less time to facilitate, because you're not answering as many questions or listening. People are moving at their own pace and they're satisfied. So yes, Lisa, absolutely. You have to be very familiar with your own students and the objectives in your course. Plus the fact, challenges, new things are always challenging. Anytime we do something the first time, it's going to be harder. I see Dr. Judy, facial expression.
Absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely. And we always go into change kicking and screaming.
We do. And I always find that ironic working at a university, because isn't this what education is all about, is about growing. So, I'm with you, and that's why exercise is the perfect metaphor for me, because
Me too.
I need a Master Chief kicking me out of bed in the morning to go exercise. If I don't have that, it has not in 50 years happened all by itself. So we're here to help each other, and I do want to say that. Now, benefits of differentiation. Yes, it takes more time. Yes, it's confusing. Where do I even start? Don't worry, we're here to help you, and we're going to get a little bit of an idea of that today. The benefits, again, from my own experience, and I hope the research bears it out. This might be a great topic to do a dissertation on someday. Students are more engaged. It's more fun. I love teaching, and that's why I want you guys to jump in and be able to talk back and forth here, because I don't want to be a sage on the stage. I want to interact with you and have a conversation about this. It's just more fun. When students are interested in what they're doing, when it applies to them specifically, they're more interested in it. With the skills that we're going to talk about today, you're going to find more interested in interesting and rigorous products. And I would bet that you're going to see increased student success. Is it harder in an online course? Absolutely. But I've seen some things that make it actually easier for an instructor in an online course, and I'm excited to share that with you. I chose this picture thinking about the exercise metaphor, not just because it's beautiful, which it really
Yes.
is, but because it spoke to me. I was thinking about the people in the exercise classes. Who knows where those skills will lead those learners? What if these two people were people in the exercise classes? And it's the same with our students. We're preparing learners for jobs that may not even exist yet. We have no idea what they are going to become. I'm literally have goosebumps right now thinking about the idea that we are preparing people to go out and invent and create and do new things. So it only makes sense that we would invest our time to adjust lessons so that students can reap the most benefit.
Mary would like to share.
Hi, Kath.
Hi, Mary.
So it's funny because I'm in Jupiter and you're in Davy.
Yay!
We're totally switched. So this is like building up on your metaphor for exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So in yoga, there's something called inversions, but these you do on your arms, right? So you're standing on your two hands,
Mm.
and the rest of your body is twisted up in all kinds of shapes, right? So
Mm.
you're bending and you're twisting. And it's funny because I've seen it but before I wouldn't even try it. There's
Mm-hmm.
no way I can do that. I can't do it yet, but I've seen teachers stop the class, and for every level of people, they will actually give specific instructions to get people going.
Right.
And so they will give 5 different sets of instructions, starting with people like me, right? People who would panic just at the thought of it. Like, no way, I can't even breathe when she
Mm-hmm.
starts talking about it, to the people who can actually do it. And she would take 15 minutes out of the class time to actually let people experiment and play around with it in a very unthreatening. If you fall out of it, try again if you want. If you don't want to try it, don't try it. Just look and see how it is done. But the way the specificity of the instructions and the feedback and the way people try, and then and the way she says it, if you don't try it, you may have it and you may not know you have it. How will you know?
Exactly.
So I think it's I've seen it happen. Like yesterday I tried.
Mm-hmm.
We almost got it. At the
Yay.
very, very, beginner's level, I may have something there.
Yep.
And it is because she gave me very, very, very detailed instructions on where to put my hands and how to. So, while people were twisting and bending everywhere around me, I was just concentrating on where to put my hands and where to put my feet.
Exactly. Mary, I love that. And I saw a similar thing happened when I took a web design class. There were folks who were very comfortable with the idea and folks who were just panicked at the idea of getting started with this. And the
Yes.
instructor set up very specific instructions and tools, and we're going to talk about some more of these strategies, how an instructor, how to actually do it, how to implement that. And I love the idea of um, it's not a one size fits all thing.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, thank you so much. Um, is there anybody else that wanted to share or talk about this? No? Okay, thank you so much.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Lori has a comment. She
Okay.
says, "Success builds success. So having increased student success and having interesting and rigorous products is great. Many students need to keep portfolios of products that they have made for their classes, and differentiating instruction should provide more opportunities to create these types of products."
Thank you. Thanks, Laura. Yes, I heard there was a little bit of an echo on my end, but what I heard was success builds success.
Hmm.
There's definitely research that points to that. And um, when students are doing products as opposed to just not just, but as opposed to exams and that sort of thing, you do get a higher caliber of learning. There's more rigor involved, and the suggestion to have students keep portfolios, the products that they've built and developed, so that they can take them with them. And when I got this job, I had to have an electronic portfolio, something to share products that I had done with my boss. So yeah, thank you, Lori, so much for sharing that. Okay, so I think one of the things that Lisa mentioned was that there needs to be equity. We need to have it, of course, be standards based, that the students are all going to receive the same standards based content. In a university course, it's very important that one person doesn't have to do something different than another person has to do for the same credit. Um, the feedback that I've gotten from instructors is that the first time first couple of weeks of using rubric to say grade a discussion is time consuming, but after they get used to it, it goes pretty quickly. So here's an example. Dr. Priska Augustin prepared a German language class, and this is an advanced German, and the students had the material that they read for the week, and their assignment here is to read through the module material, and there's all these topics within that module: household tasks, partnership, love, communication problems between men and women, relationships, jobs, working conditions, salary, taxes, making emergency calls. That's a big variety of topics. And so their assignment here was, first they needed to write an original post about yourself within the context of that topic or setting, and then record themselves reading the words that they wrote, because it's a language course, and so they needed to practice the language that they were learning. And then they were supposed to post both the recording and the text in a discussion thread. And then, like Lisa was saying, there needs to be a rubric. And so in a discussion board, we've got a good rubric here that requires the students to have good grammar, good vocabulary, good pronunciation, and stay on topic. And so that, I thought, was a great way to differentiate, because it appeals to the students' interests. What did they want to talk about? Here's another one from a global information systems class. You think, well, how are you going to differentiate a global information system class? Well, actually, there's a lot you can do, because there's so much global information. The students in this group, they had, and we actually turned it into a quiz, because there were just simple tasks, like tasks that they needed to do. And they were given choices within that. So they had to find the D-Day landings photos that were described in the activity, post the URL for one aerial photo that interests you, and then talk about what aspects of the actions of the D-Day invasion have been captured through aerial photography, and then describe what particular features of the invasion can you interpret from the image you posted. So within that particular content, each student has their own choice of what they want to discuss or use. And, choice is a really powerful strategy for encouraging students to be involved in their content. Okay. Differentiation, we're also talking about, we're not just talking about content, we're also talking about process. Now, a lot of this is going to overlap, because I don't know how you separate the content from the process a lot of times, but we try to break it down the best that we can. Information is delivered. You've got independent learning, you've got instructor support, and you've got working in pairs or working with peer learners. So here, as I said, this does overlap with what we've talked about before in terms of giving choices and things, but it's super important to remember, when we're presenting material, there's a couple of different aspects. We want to present it, certainly make it accessible, so that students who have visual and hearing disabilities and other physical impacting things, that they're able to read it, say with a screen reader, or be able to listen to it. And then we also talk about learning styles. Dr. Judy and I, we love talking about this, because she's a very, very visual learner, and I'm totally auditory. It's all, let's talk about it, And then there's other folks, and we all have different combinations too, but putting our hands on the thing, and it's not one or the other. We try to do a variety of things so that it appeals to all the different learning styles, and it gives it to students in a variety of manners. The more times you touch it, the more times you access it, the more deeply embedded into your brain it goes. Again, giving folks a choice of literature, whether it's a choice between articles, books, websites, whatever, providing choice of topics for discussion or research, projects, and then these interactive texts, which are pretty cool also. We probably will not have time to get into it, but there are some of the publishing companies, McGraw-Hill, Pearson, they've got some really great interactive software so that if I'm taking a music class and I do have some background in the subject, I can kind of take my quiz and pass through and get to the piece that I don't know about. Or if I have no background at all, or if I want to go more in depth, students have the ability to do some flexibility with that kind of thing, and it can be really beneficial.
Kathy, Lori has made a comment in the chat that one of the things that she's noticed as a student is that instructors have to be really, really clear in their instructions. She mentions that she's worked in small groups, and the instructions, same instructions, were interpreted differently by different people within the group. So we have to really make sure that we're specific, clear, and direct.
Absolutely. Yes, for sure. Because those instructions are being processed by people with all different kinds of abilities too. So we're big fans of repeating the instructions in a variety of ways, and also in an online class, making sure there's a way that students can get your attention and get the information that they need, which is a great segue to our next piece, which is providing instructor support. We use a thing called the frequently asked questions discussion board, and in every module that I build with instructors, we always put on there, if you have any questions, post it to the common discussion board. And this is also a great chance for students to answer each other's questions. We know that when you teach someone, that's the highest level of learning. So if I'm teaching somebody else or answering their question, that's helping me to learn as well. Also, it saves time for the instructor. You don't want to have to answer the question 20 different times. Every time you get that question, send them back to the discussion board. We've already answered it. Look on October 30th, it's right there. If you have any more, come on back. We've also got virtual meetings like we're doing right now. You can set up maybe just before kicking off or midway through a project. I've had instructors who schedule an online meeting to make sure that everybody knows what they're supposed to do. You can also do this in a one-on-one setting too with your online students, that they know their instructor is available. It's like having office hours, but making it at a time when, say, the working mom or the sailor who's, on the ship can get to you. For struggling advanced learners, I love this idea of working with them one-on-one to give them opportunities to revise and resubmit. And I had originally thought of it just as for the struggling learner, but I thought this is so true for the advanced learner too, that they want time to explore something more, or maybe give them a flexible schedule to move ahead or request more time. I wouldn't apply this to the student who's late. I would apply it to the student who is on time and wants to try again, wants to do a better job with the feedback that they got. We've got students who, like we said, are in all different situations, and what if they say, oh, this would be an amazing project. It could help me with my promotion at work if I show them that I can do this particular thing. It only makes sense to give them a chance to build something new, report out and see how it goes, that sort of thing. I would think as an instructor, that would be a great opportunity to work with students and get to know them. I saw some comments come up. Did we want to take a minute to look at those?
Yeah, Lisa had commented about learning, multiple learning styles and about learning from others, and then Lori chimed in and indicated that learning from people with who learn in different styles provides those learning moments too. Some of the benefit from working in small groups, that whole peer learning thing, interacting together with others.
Exactly.
And Kathy, can you hear me?
Yes.
One of the things you just mentioned just reminded me of the importance of knowing, as the instructor, knowing the parameters so that we make sure that the equity is always there. So one student may need a little more time. We have to think about, what does that look like? What is really differentiating for our students looks like in terms of logistics, right? And when students know that, those parameters that they need to abide by, so it's one thing that we would say, you can redo this once or twice, or if you're going to redo, or if you want feedback, or whatever the case may be, you need to submit by this date, so that students are aware that my instructor is differentiating, so that I can scaffold, I can self-direct. I can create a product that's authentic to where I'm at in my learning, but my instructor also has these guidelines that I must adhere to so that we can all have a consistent leveling of the playing field.
Lisa, I think that's such an important point. And one of the things that when I work with instructors to build courses is we build in those revisions directly into the project, because revision and applying feedback should be part of the creation process anyway. It shouldn't be a special situation. Everybody can always improve their project. And
Great.
so what I try to do is we build in time for submit your first draft. Even if it's a project group, they submit their first draft. Now evaluate it. If you're working in a project group, the people within the group evaluate what the others have done, or submit the whole draft and get feedback from your classmates. Now take the feedback and apply it to what you've done, because regardless of your level, you can always improve.
Exactly. And that's a great reason for using milestone rubrics.
It really is. It really is. And also, we do have these tutorial services available on campus, and they're not just for face-to-face students, they are for online students as well. If you don't have these resources, we can help you get them, but we've just got this huge amount of free services for students. We want them to be successful. The whole situation is set up for student success. So there's tons and tons of resources available. Oh, is this where I wanted to go? Yes. Okay. So this next one is, again, perfect segue into working with other students, peer-to-peer support. And we've talked about project groups. Peer mentoring is also something that can be also very successful. If you've got an advanced learner and a struggling learner in the same course, it makes sense to me to match them up, because a student might be, depending on your students, but they might be more comfortable learning from a peer as opposed to being with their instructor. Their grade is not at stake necessarily if they're asking a question. Everybody's different, but we do know that teaching other people is a great way to learn. So if I'm an advanced student, it might appeal to me to spend some time helping a struggling peer. Okay, we know that learner-to-learner interaction, again, is a powerful way to process information. So project groups are a terrific way to facilitate that type of learning, but project groups are not the only way to do it. I'm excited to show you this example. When I worked with Dr. John Sullivan, he teaches a course called Studying Violence. And every module, every week, opened up a different a discussion and exploration of a different kind of violent crime, including homicide, drug and alcohol related crimes, gang related crimes, domestic abuse, and on and on. We had 80 students in that course. We wanted to have this interaction, but we wanted it to be in a safe environment. We wanted to build a safe environment in which students could discuss those topics. If I'm sitting in a course and I'm posting discussion boards and 80 people are going to see my responses, I'm going to be pretty hesitant to post a real discussion. So what we did, we built small groups just for the discussion. It's the same amount of work for the instructor. We're still reading those posts that the students write. They're answering the same questions, but we had these groups of, say, 10 people, and they stayed in that small discussion group. It wasn't a project group, it was a discussion group where for the length of the semester, they had that discussion with the same 10 people. Maybe it was a half of semester. They had the discussion with the same 10 people. So each week, this week we're talking about gang crimes. Next week we're talking about rape, child abuse, all of these things. Within a group that you build it slowly, they grew to know each other, and they were able to have these kind of very intimate conversations, actually. It worked great. We're very, very excited about it. The other thing that was great about this is that first responders, people who work with, social workers, nurses, doctors, that sort of thing, they have to be aware of self-care. And so in a small group like this, you can notice if somebody in your group is having trouble with a particular thing. You might be triggered on this really sensitive topic. In 80 people, you're going to get lost. But if you're used to discussing that thing with the same 10 people, you can kind of take care of each other. So it was a really beautiful experience. Okay, and we've talked a little bit about differentiating products. In this model, in this method, students are able to choose the topics that interest them, and they're able to choose. I haven't seen it yet. I would really like to see learners being able to choose the medium that they want to use. It would pose a challenge, certainly, but I think it'd be really cool to be able to do that. In this example, Dr. Jameson was teaching a volunteer management class. And so she had the students go out and volunteer in their community. And they needed to pick a place that they had not volunteered before, because she wanted them to learn specifically what it's like to be a new volunteer. And she wanted them to apply their experience to the work that they were learning in class. And they had different products that they had to give through the semester. They did reflections. They talked about their personal interactions and the different pieces. And this was a really great example because you had students who wanted to work with animals, you had students who wanted to work with veterans, you had different, it really appealed to the different folks. And then with Dr. Cruz in public administration, he actually gave them a multimedia project to do. And this was a graduate level course, I think. Yeah, graduate level course, where they needed to do a video or a narrated PowerPoint addressing the topic. They encouraged them to have fun with it. One of the criteria was that it needed to be under 10 minutes. And there was a specific rubric that told exactly what they needed to submit. Where's our rubric here? And the reason that I really like this is both of those is because they're so practical. They really got the students, Dr. Jameson's got them out into the world that they were going to be working in. And Dr. Cruz has got them working in multimedia. And when students go out into the world, they're going to have to adapt. They're going to have to show some innovation. We're preparing them for these challenging jobs, and so we might as well give them a chance to practice it. More fun than writing a paper anyway, right? Sometimes we got to write a paper, we know that. But just to summarize, we're coming up to the end of our time together. Want to remember that the instructor in differentiation is really more the guide on the side rather than the sage on the stage. Differentiation does certainly take more time to plan, but the benefits can be wonderful. There's increased engagement. You can get rigorous and interesting products from the students, and we believe you'll see increased student success. Please remember you're not alone in this. If you want to apply some of the things that you've heard, or maybe it was just a blur and something sounded good, but you're not sure what it was, that's what we're for, the Center for E-Learning, and there's a lot of resources for Canvas, and we'll send you those as well. We're here to work with you and help you shine. We're all about differentiation too. Center for E-Learning, we're not about, big groups of training. We do one-on-one, we meet you right where you are, and we're very excited to try new things with you. That's what this whole thing is about. As we're wrapping up, we sure do thank you for your time. If you have any questions or anything that you want to share, please do send it in. And your time is the most valuable thing you have, so we're very, very grateful that you spent it with us today. We'll also send you resources and things, and we hope you have a great day. Thanks.
Beautiful session. Thank you so much. Lots
Thank
of
you,
wonderful
Kathy.
comments.
Thank you. Thank you all.